Hello, Donna. This
Hi,
is my
Dad.
great friend, Donna Grillo. I don't even know what year it was, but
Long time ago.
a long time ago. A mutual friend of ours, a guy by the name of Terry Thorne, who was the CEO of Klasky Chupo at the time, thankfully introduced me to this amazing woman. She has been a voice director and a voice caster for many years, and has cast, SpongeBob SquarePants, Invader Zim, and Squirrel Boy, and a ton of shows. We don't have to go through all of them. You can check out her.
I know. Go to IMDb.
There you go. Exactly. I'm always been thankful for as soon as we started working together. What I always found that was really good about, one, you're incredibly organized, which always helped a lot. You direct voice very much like I hope to have directed voice. I mean, you have a great ear. And the one great thing about it is you're very positive. I mean, being positive is so important to creativity and getting the best out of people. Negative, I never thought negative works.
And it's weird because when I was kind of training, I worked with some people that were kind of mean and negative and do it like this and dictatorish. And I was like, that's not my style.
Right.
I want the actors to be creative and feel like they can take chances. So
yeah, absolutely.
a nice warm environment definitely works for me.
So how did you get started in voice direction and casting?
Well, I got started in casting at Klasky Chupo when they needed an associate because the Barbara Wright had trained me, and then she was going on to become a producer, and so she needed someone to fill in the casting. So it was really perfect timing because she kind of trained me and taught me all the SAG rules and everything, how things were done. And so then I started casting, and I'm kind of just was a natural. I've always been one of those people that you should put this person in this film. Like I could always just know. And even Gabor had said to me, you're really good at picking voices. I was always in his ear going, Gabor, we should get, blah, 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 and so he just kind of really encouraged me. So really, thank you, Lord. I never really became, thought I was going to be a casting director. It just kind of brought me that way by circumstances. And then once I started going to all the sessions, I realized, being a casting director is about half of the part of your job. The other part is getting really good recordings from the actors. And so I really studied I was doing Duckman. So I had, Ron Osborne and Jeff Reno were directing, and it was Everett Peck. So, I started like at the top, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So I really learned from extreme professionals. And then from there, I did about 50, 60 episodes of All Real Monsters, which Chuck Swenson was the director. Okay. And boy, I learned a lot from him. He's an awesome director. He also...
What did you learn? What kind of things did you...
Well, I learned that the actors will just do their thing, but you have to understand what the script and the emotion is that you need. And so the more I started realizing that it's not just a good take from an actor, is it all has to cut together, that they have to answer the line before and set up the line that comes after. And is there enough vocal effects like movement and that sound when you're stretching, or when you sit down and you're tired, things like that, vocal effects.
So you're actually kind of almost like syncing the script, with your audible, with your ears.
Right.
Going all the way.
Yeah, in a lot of ways you are. And what happens is I've had many awesome, artists come up to me, storyboard artists, and say, I would have never thought of that. But just because you went, well, I'm going to do this, that well gave them a lot to draw with. So then your hands going across, So once I started understanding animation, it actually made me a better director too.
Yeah, I remember you when we worked on Long Hair and Double Dome together. You did a lot of fill-in stuff that never even occurred to me. Things, these grunts and these things that, like you said, that would dictate some movement. So
Yes.
I could, and I'm sure experience helped fill in those gaps as you went along.
Yes, the action's really
So,
important to get action in.
so for a young, a young animator, what would you suggest them start, like if they're wanting to learn to act with their voice and everything else, should they do like scratch tracks for their pieces?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the first thing you want to do, like I learned two fields, just so you know, and there's two different kinds of ways, and you'll understand this because you've been around longer than me. As far as
Damn.
animation goes, I knew
You're right
you know
about
you.
that.
I didn't mean to post you as old guy, but what you will remember when back in the day, before computer animation, we used to actually, you would draw the storyboard first. And so I would look at the pictures and I'd see, oh, he's jumping up and down and he's doing this. So I got to get that effort. And so it really made it easy for me because I could plan all the actions by what was in the picture.
Mhm.
Well, I don't know, about 15 years ago, it just turned around. Once we started getting computer animation, we didn't wait for the storyboard artist. We would record first by script. So that changed. That's when I had to really kick in and be like imaginative and be like, oh, I got to look at the words and picture. Did he skip there? Well, if he skipped, I got to get a sound if he skipped. Did he fall? I got to get that sound. So that's kind of, stuff that you want, depending on which way you're doing, you definitely have to use your visuals.
So,
So as an artist.
for a student, though, I would think that you would suggest that if they did do, like if they did do a script, that a board would be really helpful for them to understand what they need to fill in.
I think so. I think to me, I prefer going by boards. And I think a lot of films, like when you're doing a big movie, a lot of times they'll hand you a script, but they'll already have people doing scratch storyboards for them to get all the actions, because that really develops your character. Like if you have a character that's always doing this, you know what I mean? You gotta like be able to get all that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's certainly, if you want to control, if you're doing your own project, I would say to really board it out, a scene at least, so that I can get a feel for what the character, like the walk cycle and how they act, and, are they big or are they subtle, all that stuff has to come through somehow. Either I'm making it up, the actor's making it up, or you are.
Right, and so even the animator or the director is thinking of the acting as they're going, and that probably is a good guide for the actors themselves in the voice sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. The more information you can give the actor, the better the performance is going to be. So, but I'm thinking for like a class situation where it's probably you are doing a lot of the voices yourself, start with a scratch track. And those scratch tracks are so valuable because what happens is you could tell me, I want to use a guy that's kind of gruff and a little mean, but you have like, Danny DeVito in mind. And I have, someone way different than that. So what happens is if you give me a scratch track, I'm like, oh, okay, I get right into your head. I know what you want. So then it makes it easier for me to go find the right actor for that. So then, your auditions aren't going to be a bunch of different people,
I mean, this may be a little bit off subject, but it just reminds me of a time that when we cast Long Hair and Double Dome, and I remember we Long Hair was almost more difficult than Double Dome to a certain degree, but when you cast Daniel Davis, that was like, what's that moment when you absolutely know positively that that's the guy?
I know. It is. And so even when I'm auditioning, I could listen to 50 auditions and I'll go, that's the one. You just hear it. It all comes together. And yeah, Daniel was absolutely perfect. Yeah, and it was funny because you said something to me that sparked me to think about Daniel. Okay. Like there was something about that kind, he was a little snobby or something. And I was like, oh my God, Daniel is so good at that. I've been watching his TV show and I was such a fan of his. And I was like, oh my God, he's perfect. And he was perfect.
He was great. And the guy he was so tireless. He's such a professional actor. And that was what was so amazing about him. He was really, really, so perfect. He was good. I was surprised by him because, he had been established television actor already, relatively so. and he was just willing to do whatever he could to make that.
Yeah, I mean, he really brought his game. And, you know, I love working with actors like that. It's not just like, yeah, in between my golf game, let me give you an hour.
Right.
He showed up and is there and ready to try different things and go different directions. Yeah, he's an awesome person to work with.
So do you think, I mean, I know, you know, I did some voices on various pilots that I did. Do you think most great creators should learn to do voices and work on something?
Absolutely, yeah. Because in the first place, if you are going, you know, past few years I've done a lot of non-union shows that have kind of lower budgets, right?
Okay.
So all of a sudden, you know, you don't have the budget to maybe have 10 actors, you could only have 5. So what are some of the parts you can fill in? You know, if you have little dog walks by and goes, you know, do that voice. You know what I mean? You have to plan kind of, and then you also have to plan how they don't sound alike. You know what I mean? So you have to really stretch. It's like, well, he did a little part here. I'm not going to bring him back in until 3/4 of the script and in a different vocal range. You know what I mean? So you have to think about, you know, kind of plan depending on what your budget is, how many actors you can hire. So a lot of the show I did like last year, it's called Vault the Wonder Deer, and it's a lower budget, you know, show, and it's beautiful. I just love it. But we had those poor actors, man. We had to hire people that could do 5 or 6 voices each episode.
Okay.
Which is, it's challenging, and it's challenging that 6 episodes in, I'm still looking for new voices from them. So as an actor, man, I kept these actors on their toes. They were like, they couldn't mess around. I'd be like, no, you did that in episode 2. You know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's hard.
I mean, that's part of it. Remembering what they sounded like is always playing it back to them so that they remember what they sound like and everything else. That's certainly.
Well, what you get organized and what you do is I have samples already with the engineer, and I'll say, can you go back to that voice that he did on 2nd episode called, you know, Roger, you know, play Roger for him, you know what I mean? Right. So yeah, you try to get organized so that you don't repeat. It's hard though.
I mean, are SAG rules still with the 2 voices per character?
Yeah,
I mean, as far as
SAG rules, you get 2 voices. The 3rd one is an additional 10%, and then the 4th one you have to just pay again.
Right.
The full rate.
But so how would a student go about hiring a voice talent?
There's many ways. Are your students, do they go under like a student SAG rule, or are they just non-union stuff?
I think they're just going to be doing mostly non-union stuff.
Non-union, okay. Because like at USC, they have deals where I can hire SAG actors for a student film. They have student film rates and rules and stuff like that. So it depends.
Is that relatively new?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
No. A lot of people don't know about it.
I've been a student for a while.
A lot of people just don't know about it. A lot of people don't know SAG rules at all, which is really dismaying to me because I walk around trying to follow them and everybody's like, what? I never even heard of that. I'm like, oh God, okay. So
now SAG and AFTRA are together, so
you know, and they're really trying in this modern age. I've seen them really step up the past few years to try to accommodate everybody so that you can be in the union and then not tie their hands so bad that they can't afford it. They'll work with you on budgets and stuff like that. I mean, I know you've probably had to do some negotiating with them about.
Yeah, I mean, I've got, you know, I actually had more luck with AFTRA than SAG, but you know, now they're getting, you know, I mean, but on Long Hair and Double Dome, we dealt with SAG, and they were, you know, it was just standard stuff, so it wasn't anything, you know.
Right. But I know that they do definitely give deals, and they're always doing new things too. Like just recently, they just did a new. They'll cover, you know, like video games, or they'll cover certain things that weren't covered a few years ago. So, you know, they're always trying to expand, just like, you know, the business keeps changing. You got to cover new things. But to get going on hiring somebody, if you're doing a non-union show, that's what I will address, okay, as non-union.
Sure.
Non-union, there's a lot of internet now. So what I would actually suggest to people, the very first thing, let's just say that this is your first film and you're going to you need voices for it.
Mm-hmm.
I would number one ask, can you do a scratch track so that I can get an idea? And even the boys, girl parts, dogs, kids, whatever you need a part for. If you could just give me an idea, if you have an idea, some people have ideas, some don't. But if you do have an idea, please let me know. Like you say you love 50s movies. Like when I was doing Angry Beavers, Mitch Schauer, the creator of that show, really loved 1950s movies. So I went and I looked at all, and they like monster movies and like those B movie type,
Sure. For
like
the
corny
B
films,
monster movies,
the
right?
B movies. So I went and I found like Beverly Garland and like all these people that were famous from the 50s in these B movies. And it was great because they were like, how did you even know about us? And I'm like, oh, I'm a film buff, you know? So I went and I was looking for 50s movies.
Awesome.
I just looked at the cast and saw who was in them. If they were still around, I'm like, hey, you want to do a cartoon? You know what I mean? So, you know, you just get creative about who, you know, finding. If you have somebody in your head, it does not hurt to ask. You'd be surprised. Now, you know, big movie stars, they're getting hit up every day.
Sure.
But a lot of people go back 5-10 years. Movies from your past when you're growing up. You love some of those people, good chances they're sitting at home going, wow, someone actually thought about me. Like really, so you should.
I mean, I found that I've done that on numerous occasions. You just ask. I mean, the worst that can happen is they're going to say no, and the best that can happen, they'd be like, wow, that's great. I'd love to use that.
Well, I mean, Beverly Garland's a great example. You know, I called her agent up, and her agent was kind of like, huh? Like, because I guess she hadn't gotten any calls in a long time. And it was really nice. I don't think she had even thought ever of doing animation. Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, I used her a few times on Angry Beavers, and then I noticed she started getting more parts. So her agent probably said, hey, you know, they loved her on Angry Beavers. Why don't you give her a try? And then she started getting more stuff.
That's
so,
great.
You know, you gotta, there are walls. And that's what your casting director kind of, like, I'm really good at negotiating, getting what I want, because I work with all these people and I'm like, well, if you help me get that person, you know, I'm going to make sure and bring some auditions on your people. You know what I mean? You do little deals and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to negotiate, and I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine. You know, a lot of times it's a money issue. And if you don't have enough money, you know, what else can you offer them? You know, publicity, free what, you know what I mean? You just got to kind of think outside the box, what you can do to get people.
So let me ask you, like, you know, I mean, I know you teach voice and you do a lot of teaching and stuff like that. If a student was interested, you know, in learning how to do voices or anything else, what kind of exercise, what should it just be practice? Should they be listening to things?
There's a few ways, but really, if an animator wants to do a voice, they probably have something in their head already. And I'm like, please free yourself of judgment. And if you have something in your head, start laying it down. Because once people start hearing it, if they're truthful, you know, you're the teacher, and if you think it sucks, you're probably going to tell them that, I hope. And you don't want to squash anybody's creativity, but if you think, I really just don't think that's going to work, okay. But a lot of times it does work. So my first thing is your natural abilities, if you have it. A lot of animators don't, though. It's not their thing. So if you're not an actor and you don't feel comfortable, but you want to do voices, and I actually tell everybody that they should do voices, because if that show gets picked up, you're going to make a lot more money if you're part of the cast.
Absolutely. That's where you're going to make money.
Yeah.
That's
because, I mean, your show's like on Nickelodeon or some cable channel, and you're going to be getting, you know, 2-cent checks for your residuals. Right. But, you know, if you at least you're on every show playing, you know, a dog that says one thing, or even better, if you sing and you sing like the lead, you know, your
I can't sing.
your song and stuff like that, you'll make a lot more money.
I'm not going to sing. I won't sing for this interview, but, you know, trust me.
Well, because singing goes under the music union, you actually make more money. Like if you sing in a title song, oh my God, boatloads of money. So, you know, if you sing it all.
So, for instance, like you cast Tom Kenny as SpongeBob, and I remember a story that he always thanked you. So he sings the title song, doesn't he?
No.
No?
Actually, no. That's
Okay.
Pat Penny, who
Okay.
plays. What does he play on that part? He plays. Oh, da, 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 da. Yeah, he sings SpongeBob. When last time I saw him, he literally said, "You bought me a house and put me
Right.
in
Yeah.
a
That's okay. So that's
yeah,
the guy. I knew it
yeah,
was somebody. I didn't know it was Tom or if it was something.
yeah. It
Yeah.
was
You
Pat
literally
Penny,
bought.
and
Thank you for
that's
that.
even
Right.
different than SAG, though. That's actually the music union, and so the music
Okay.
union
I didn't
even
know there was a difference. Yeah.
yeah, it is, and they actually make a lot more money. Like me, if I could ever be on a title, I'm doing it. Talking or singing. If you're singing, it's music. If you're talking, then it would be SAG. So it kind of depends what you're doing.
So, as you know, I'm teaching an acting for animators class. What kind of things that you would say to my class? You know, what kind of things should they be thinking of?
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I want you to do the voice. If you don't feel comfortable with that, then you got to learn about. You have to look around. If you have something in your mind, do you have friends that would cover that, or your mom, or like who around you that you know? If you don't have anybody that you know, that would be good for it. And just experiment. It's like if you have a best friend that does a funny voice, have that person come in and just experiment. You're doing a scratch. It doesn't matter. But if you're not finding people through who you know, then the next thing is to get online and go to like voices.com or voices123, where you can post for free and audition. And then I don't know if it's free anymore. It used to be free. It's not anymore. I think when you post, they take a percentage. So say if I want my budget is $500.
Right.
Voices will take a certain percentage out of that 500.
Still, that's
the
far
actor will
that's
get
far
300, not 500 or something.
Far
You know
less
what I mean?
than the 900 SAG fee or so whatever.
Right.
I
It's up to 1,000. It's up to 1,050 now. So
it's 1,050 now. Okay.
yeah, for two voices. But you can use those for free, and then there's also like backstage. West backstage, they have a whole thing that you can post for free. I think that's free for posting. So you can post jobs all over the world.
Okay.
All over the internet. The thing is that I will tell you, when I first tried voices.com and those kind of places, I didn't have like a lot of luck because there wasn't that many people on it and they weren't getting it and they weren't really good actors or whatever. But it has really changed the past couple of years. And now, like, you can find major talent on those places. It's bad for SAG. It's great for actors.
Would you say, like, if a student's doing their own voice, that keeping their energy up and keeping getting something in their in other words, that you got to perform, right? You got to bring that voice to life.
Yeah, you do. You have to bring it to life. And, I would say watch cartoons that are on the air right now, keeping in mind everything's like a year old because by the time it's made and aired, but at least you'll know the trends. Like right now, if you were watching Cartoon Network, say, it would be really obvious that it's very boy-centric. It's kind of out there, weird, like, half the time I'm like, are these people like on acid or something? What are they doing? I mean, it's crazy stuff. And then it's also extremely natural, like just you and I talking. There's not a lot of acting on a lot of the Cartoon Network, like Adventure Time or, those kind of shows.
More regular voice.
Yeah, it's just like a kid talking, you know what I mean? That's way different than actually doing character work. So it depends on how you're planning your show. Do you want a natural reads or do you want a real characters? And I like a little bit of both. And like a great example of that is like Doc McStuffins. The little kid, the boy and the girl, and the parents play completely straight, just like a movie. Just, hey, Doc, what's for breakfast? Really straight. Then when she goes in a room and the little animals all come alive, those are all very charactery. And they're like, wow, and they're crazy and charactery. Right. So that was like a nice mix. I think that was, a conscious thought to do it that way. That's so, and then like I have another show called Miles from Tomorrowland that's on there. They changed the title to something One Force or something. But anyway, they were really adamant that they wanted it to have like a really natural, like just your mom and dad talking to you.
Is that harder to cast?
I find it kind of boring. And so the people that aren't, it takes like a really good actor to be able to still get some kind of nuance in a really boring read.
Right.
You know?
Got it. Got it.
Characters is so much more fun. And what also happens is it makes it a little harder to cast, because when you ask for natural reads, you'll listen to like 20 really boring reads where you're like, and then all of a sudden someone will actually ignore that note and put some character in it. And I'm like, I want that person. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So that person gets on my list of someone to consider. So it's kind of tough for the actors. I always tell them to do 2 takes. Do first what they asked of you. If they want a real natural read, give that natural read. And then the second one is more of your character work.
Right.
And if you have a different idea, I love to hear 2 takes. The problem is what happens with natural reads is it's fine. Like Chris Parnell is a great example. He's on Rick and Morty, and he's on a bunch of shows, right? He's on a lot of stuff. Chris Parnell just does Chris Parnell.
Right.
He picks up a script and he just talks. Gilbert Gottfried, and here's another example.
Right.
When Gilbert talks, Gilbert's just doing Gilbert. He's not like going through great lengths of acting.
Right.
That's a natural read from a performer. I'm not going to ask Chris Parnell, can you try doing it up with this funny voice and talk really fast? Right? That wouldn't work with him.
Right.
So, you know, it depends on who you hire, you know?
Sure. And sometimes you're actually after that particular person. I mean,
exactly.
So original, to himself. There's not many voices like him. There's only people that imitate him. So
exactly. But you know what? That's so helpful. Like if you said to me, I want to do a character, and I was kind of like that smug attitude that Chris Parnell does on Rick and Morty. Well, that at least then I know what you're thinking of, and then I can go and find some stuff like that. Or if I want like a weird sounding voice, like Gilbert Gottfried, then I know what to go for.
Then you know. Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very helpful if you know what you want, and if you can convey that to your casting director, you're going to be in pretty good shape.
Right. So let's just put in wrapping this up, let's talk about briefly, like, if a student is performing with another student, what are the simple things that they should keep track? Should they do multiple takes of a line? Should they, how should they record or keep track of takes that they want? Or just briefly.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know it's a more complicated thing, to do, because I've seen you do it. Thank God you did it, but
Well, I mean, it's just getting organized. You have to number your script, and then you have to call your take. So it's like take 1, and then if I might do it 2 or 3 or 4 times, and then if I like take 4, I'm just going to tell my engineer to mark it so they know. So by the time we're done recording, I've already pretty much picked all my takes. But you still have to listen to them back, because once you listen, the one that came after might not match well. So you know what? I think that take 3 worked better than take 4. So a lot of times what I ask them to do is cut together my choices, and then give me the alts, so that if I need to go back and, I think that other one will work better.
Yep. Yeah, so, it's always a little bit of a surprise sometimes. You get in the edit and you go like, I thought that was the best take ever, and then you hear one that you didn't really care about, and then you go, that's it. That's actually it. So it's bizarre.
And it's just so different because it's in the room, and when you're in the room with the actor, it's different than when you're listening back.
Well, I'll say that I remember when actually Jess Harnell did Double Dome, and he told us that he was going to do a voice. I was trying for a certain thing, and then he told us that he was going to do this voice. He does this voice, and no one has ever picked it. And then he started doing it. You and I started laughing so
hard.
Loved it. We didn't even hear his take. I mean, it was just like we just started laughing right away. And again, that was one of those things.
His Wayne Newton. His weird Wayne Newton impersonation was great.
Yeah, he was very good at doing. He's a very good improv actor. He was excellent improv, which certainly helps a voice performance.
Yeah.
But he did like cartoony versions of caricature voices, like William Shatner. He did a real cartoony version of that.
Yeah,
so he had some fun. He was a kooky guy.
He's wonderful. He's major VO guy. That just really gets it. Yeah, he's super fun.
So let's just to wrap this up. Let's talk about improv a little bit. I mean, do you like working with actors who improv a lot?
Yeah, I love working with improvs. I love working with stand-ups. I love people that
Okay.
are not afraid. You know, you guys have to, everybody needs to remember, we're just digital recording now. You're not wasting tape.
Yeah,
Try
that's true.
stuff. Try some different things. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, I got a good take. I love it when I hear an actor say to me, I'll be like, okay, that was a great take. Thanks. And they'll go, you know what? I got an idea. Can I try something? I'm like, yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Please try something different. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I'll go, like, okay, thanks. You know? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I want my actors to bring that, and you definitely want to have an environment that your actors feel comfortable even asking that.
Yeah.
Because if you work in the old-fashioned way of directing was very dictatorial, and I didn't like that. And it was like, we're done. That's the take, you know. And I'm like, no, you got an idea, bring it on. I want to
Yeah.
hear
I
it. You
mean,
know,
that again, bringing it
that
back to
encourages
how we even
creativity.
started this. Yeah, bring it back to how we started this interview. Again, your positivity in an acting session, your sessions were always fun. They were energetic. People were laughing. People were very
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah.
There was no. I mean, the ice didn't have to be broken because there was no ice to begin with. So,
Exactly. And that's how I like it. And you know, even the agents have called me and said, "What do you do to our actors? They love working with you." And I'm like, I actually try to really form a bond with everybody that we're doing this together. It's not my show. It's not even your show. It's
right,
our show. And we're
right.
working together and we're all in a partnership. And if you can bring that to people, they really give a lot. Like I feel like my actors go out of their way to just be amazing for me. And I think it's because I bring that to them. I want you to feel open and try stuff,
I agree.
you know, and that makes a big difference. But for your animators, they need to definitely watch a lot of cartoons, like a ton of cartoons, not just what they like. They need to watch kids shows, adult shows, Adult Swim, you know, just anything animated they need to be watching. Especially if you're trying to get on television, you need to look at that because, you know, PBS is going to be different than Nickelodeon, it's
I
going to be
agree.
different than
You got
Disney
to know your
Junior.
client.
So you need to actually educate you on each channel because they all have different styles.
That's right. That's
You
right.
know?
Well, Donna, thank you so much
Oh,
for
you're welcome.
allowing us into your living room or wherever
My
we are.
dining room.
It's a pleasure
And
seeing
really
you.
good luck to everybody. You know, I'd love to see what some people, you know, wind up doing. I'd love to hear what they do.
I
You
will
know,
try to share
don't
it with you.
forget it's a
Definitely.
creative field. You know, get creative.
Okay. Sounds great. You take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye, hon.